again, I'm Chaotic Shmoo, and I'm here to continue your education on Dungeons & Dragons 3.5 edition. This week's tutorial, you will learn about equipment. This tutorial is actually going to be broken up into two parts, as there is a lot to cover, and I don't want to leave anything out. So this first one is going to be about coins and how the currency works, and then also about weapons. The second tutorial will be about armor, shields, and traveling gear. So let's get started. Let's get Logan some equipment. Alright, so since we know how much Logan can carry, let's head on over to page 111 of the Player's Handbook. So we can figure out how much we have to spend for Logan's equipment. Now there's two different ways you can get equipment. One is by going off the table 7-1 for random starting gold. Or you can go to page, well, for fighters, 39. Every class has their own starting packages. They tend to have two starting packages. For fighter, we have the Dwarven Fighter starting package and the Human starting fighter package. Well, we don't really want to pick the Dwarven one because one main component, the weapon would have to be changed unless we want to suffer penalties. We don't have proficiency with Dwarven War Axe. The proficiencies, remember in the previous tutorial when we looked over feats, we have proficient with simple and martial weapons. The other category of proficiencies for weapons is exotic weapons. Dwarven War Axe is an exotic weapon, so we're not proficient with it. So that wouldn't be very helpful. Now, on the other hand, we have the Human Fighter package. This would give us scale mail and a great sword, along with a short bow. And then it actually already sets up our skills for us too if we don't want to pick our skills based off of our ranks. Now, granted, this is going off of, depending on your intelligence modifier, depends on if you're going to be able to actually utilize what they have down here. You might have to adjust it accordingly. It gives us a weapon focus of the greatsword, which we're actually going to get into that feat if you remember in the previous tutorial. We said we're not going to take the weapon focus feat just yet, because we want to know what weapon we're going to get first. We're not going to use a greatsword. I think we're going to go with sword and shield style for Logan. Just seems more fitting. And then they go down into even your bonus feats. I'm giving him blind fight for this one. Just a nice feature, nice feat. And then it even gives him his gear and his remaining gold. So a nice starting package for if you don't want to buy it a la carte, we'll say. But for this purpose, so you can learn how to do all this stuff and how it all works, we're going to do a la carte. We're not going to go with these starting packages and have it do it for us. You're here to learn, not just to have it done for you. So we're going to go back to 111. And we're going to go right here where it says Equipment a la carte. This section, again, table 7-1. Starting gold. We are a fighter. Each class has its own starting gold, because certain classes, the backgrounds of each class, you're going to have different urges for how much gold you want. Some are going to want more, some are going to want less. Some are going to care more, some are going to care less. Some are going to have more access to stuff generally in the beginning than others. So there's different types. So as a fighter, some also costs more. Starting equipment costs more than others too. So certain classes are going to have more simply because their gear costs more. Good example of this is the fighter has 6d4 times 10 average starting gold, or 150 for the average. A wizard has 3. Wizard and sorcerer, both arcane, don't need any armor, can't use any armor without suffering penalties. Doesn't really need any weapons, maybe like a staff or a dagger or something like that, which are really inexpensive. It's 3d4 times 10, or an average of 75. So it weighs it out in the sense where, you know, a fighter who's going to use armor, shield, sword, bow, all these extra items and everything like that is going to need more gold, where a wizard, they have their spells. They don't necessarily need all that extra gold. So with that, we could take the average. Again, this all depends on how your game master is going to run the game for you. But you could either take the average of 150 or you can roll. For this purpose, we're going to head on over to Roll20. We're going to pop up the dice roller here. And we're going to enter in 6, D4, and we're going to roll. We're going to get the actual random roll of the die. And then I'm going to type, let's see if this will actually work. 11, times 10, which obviously 110, very simple, but there's just a nice little feature I wanted to show in Roll20. So we have 110 gold to use for Logan's equipment. Now that's 40 less than what, you know, the average, but I took a chance. You never know. Could have gotten more. In this case, we got less, excuse me. So let's take that 110, go over to the character sheet here. Let's scroll on down to currency. Now that is 110 gold pieces. Whoops. So I'm going to put GP. Now, before we fully get into buying equipment, I'm going to go over coins. The currency in Dungeons & Dragons. So coins work in increments of 10, ranging from the lowest to the highest values, being copper pieces the lowest, then silver, then gold, and then the highest and more rarities, depending on, again, your game master, but in the standard general, platinum pieces. Platinum pieces, you don't see a lot of them. The main currency, the main form of coin is gold coins. You go to a dragon's hoard, let's say. You're going to mostly see gold coins. You'll see some platinum pieces in there, and then silver and copper pieces in there, but the majority of it's going to be gold. So, with this, something to remember with the carrying capacity and coins. 50 coins equals 1 pound. So if you're carrying around a dragon hoard's worth of gold, don't think you're going to be able to carry it just by yourself on your back. Think you're going to need a wagon or something, because you're going to get encumbered. So, now I said that the coins are of increments of 10. Now that means 10 copper equals 1 silver. 10 silver equals 1 gold. 10 gold equals 1 platinum. Might seem very straightforward, but it can get a little confusing when you're in the midst of all the chaos and excitement and everything within playing your character in the world. And you got to quickly do math going, okay, it was 10, this was 3 copper, and I have a gold coin, so okay, got to convert that down from silver to copper. It can get a bit much. So you just got to remember, it's always increments of 10, platinum being the highest. 10 platinum is 10 platinum. It goes to nothing else higher. So now that we know now that you know what coins are and how they work with the increments of 10 and everything, let's go shopping. Let me bring this book back up here. I'm just going to scroll down here to page 116 and 117 to table 10. See, I'm 10. I'm getting ahead of myself. Table 7-5. Weapons. Now, seems like a fairly good amount of weapons. This is melee and ranged weapons. There's one section we want to ignore. Exotic weapons. Remember I mentioned this before with the Dwarven War Axe, which is right here. Dwarven War Axe. Very nice weapon. But we're not proficient with any of these. If we want to be proficient with these, we have to take a specific feat, exotic weapon proficiency, only it does not apply to all of them. where like if you take simple weapon proficiency, you get all of these. You can use every single one of these listed right here. You just have it. You just know them. Same as martial. You know all of these and these. You just have them. You know them. Exotic weapons, because they're exotic, you can only pick one of them for every time you take that feat. So if we wanted to be proficient with the Dwarven War Axe, we would take exotic weapon proficiency, Dwarven War Axe. Then we are only proficient with the War Axe. None of the rest. So we're going to ignore this section, because again, that's not our specialty. And we're going to come over here to the martial weapons. Now I figure Logan's starting off. He can always adjust it and change to something else if he wants to. In the future, if playing them and you decide, I'm not liking this setup, so let's switch it out and actually go with the greatsword. You never know. We're going to go with the long sword. Oops, that's the flail. Long sword here. That's going to be his primary weapon. Only costs 15 gold. So it's within our 110. You know, we'll have 95 gold left over for armor and any miscellaneous gear we need. And possibly a shield. Shield will be very helpful. So we're going to have 15 gold subtracted, and then we got different columns here. So we're going to take the longsword. Now I'm going to shrink this down again, and shrink this down again. Go side by side here. Whoops, I said side by side. And I'm going to scroll back up here to the first page. And now if you notice below the melee and ranged, we have all of our weapons and armor and shield section. Our equipment. Well, in the first one, I'm going to put longsword. Well, there's a longsword. Now in the total attack bonus column, we're going to take the melee, which is the +4, and we're going to go, whoops, if I click right, +4. So that's when we roll to attack with our longsword, we're going to add +4 to the d20 to see if we hit. If we get their armor class, which I'll get into armor class when even more detailed when we get to the armor. If we hit their number of armor class or higher, we hit them. Any lower, we don't. We miss. So we had that +4. Then let's go to damage. Well, damage here, let's zoom in a little bit here. Damage is, we have two categories actually. We have damage small, damage medium. Well, damage small, or S, is for small creatures. Halflings, gnomes, those types. Medium, M, medium creatures. Humans, or medium. So we go off of this chart. We go off of this column right here, the medium column. So our damage as a longsword is a 1d8. 1 8-sided die. So we're going to enter 1d8 in here. But that's not it, because damage isn't just the hit die for a melee weapon. Most melee weapons, I can't even think of one off the top of my head that doesn't have this, you get your strength modifier added to the damage. So we're going to do a +3. So we're going to roll that 1d8, and then we're going to add 3 to that damage. So we can do a minimum of 4 damage with every swing that actually hits. Maximum 11. It's quite nice. It's, you know, first level, that's not bad. You do max damage on a little goblin thing, you're going to do some massive damage to him. You're definitely going to kill him. So it's a nice little extra bonus for the damage. Just like we use the strength mod in to see if we hit, we add it to our base attack bonus, giving us the +4. We apply it to damage also. Now there's something to remember with this. Damage with one-handed weapons, you get just the modifier, just the +3. Two-handed weapons, let's say if we decided to go with that greatsword, this +3 would actually be a +4, because you take 1.5 times the amount of your modifier, because you're using two hands for that extra strength. But you round down. So if that was a 4, it would be a +2. But because it's a +3, it'd be 1.5. added on to the 3, making it a 4.5. Well, we don't do the 0.5, so it's a rounding down, making it a +4 if Logan was to use his longsword two-handed. So one-handed is just the modifier as it is, +3. Two-handed is 1.5 times your strength modifier. So now that we got the damage, let's go to the next one here, which is our critical. Now a critical is right here, 19 to 20 times 2. Now you're going, what does that mean? Well, the 19 to 20 is what you roll on the die. If you roll a 19 or 20 on your d20, you have a potential of critting. You critically hit. Now, you automatically hit if you roll a 19 or 20 with a longsword. But what you do, we'll come back over here to roll 20 real fast. What you do is you want to, we're just going to roll a d20 and see what we get. But you're going to want to, oh, I critically failed. You're going to want to roll a second time. You get the 19 and 20 the first time. You roll a second time to see if you are confirming the critical hit. So you roll a 19 or 20, you roll again. If you hit their AC or higher on that second roll, you just critically hit them. Fun little added bonus. If you roll 3 20s in a row, 20 to crit, to definitely hit, second 20 to actually confirm that you did a critical hit, and then you roll again, just for fun, to see if you roll a 20. If you roll that 20, does not matter what the creature is, they instantly die. You hit their vital spot. You put that sword right into their heart, or right into their brain, or right into their magical spot that requires them to live, depending on what you're fighting. They're dead. You could kill a dragon that way. Dead. Really cool insta-kill feature. Well, once you get that crit, what do you do with it? Well, that's where this ×2 comes in handy. You will now take that damage. So I'm going to set it up right here. 1d8 plus 3. I'm slicing into them. We'll take this damage right here, which we got 6. We're going to times it by 2. So 12 damage. That's a critical strike. That's what the 19 to 20 times 2 is. So we're going to come back over here to the critical strike. We're going to go 19-20 / x2. Very simple. That's your critical strike. So next column, or section, slot, range. Melee weapons don't have range unless it specifically says, like in the throwing axe right here, or the light hammer. 20 foot for the light hammer, 10 foot for the throwing axe. I think if I scroll back up here, the dagger has 10, the club has 10. Certain things can be thrown in melee, certain things can't. Longsword, as you can see, has nothing. So we leave that blank. Special abilities or properties is if you enchant the weapon to make it magical, if it's got a special feature to it, stuff like that. If it's masterworked, you get +1 bonuses, stuff like that. That's where you'd put this. Being first level, we leave this blank. There's nothing to add to it. Ammunition, same as range, we'd leave it blank because longsword doesn't have any ammunition. If you had a bunch of throwing axes, you might want to put how many you have in the ammunition. If you have a bow, you want to put how many arrows you have here. Crossbow, how many bolts. Daggers, how many daggers if you're using them for throwing. Longsword, again, we leave blank. Now, weight. Well, that plays an account into having a longsword, and it goes against our carrying capacity. So we want to make sure we get our weight in here. Well, a longsword weighs 4 pounds. So we're just going to do 4 pounds. Very simple. Size, medium. Put a nice M there. Because we're a medium-sized creature, we use medium-sized weapons. You can use small-sized weapons if you want, but then you go off the smaller damage. And then lastly, for this longsword, we go with the type. Now the type is right here. Slashing. There's 3 different types of main types of weapons: slashing, bludgeoning, and piercing. These 3. Slashing, a sword, bladed weapon. You swing, you slice through it. Piercing, an arrow. You shoot it and it goes straight in. Bludgeoning, a hammer. You smash. That's it. Some have both bludgeoning and piercing, such as the Morning Star, because it's a giant metal ball with spikes. Why not? That'd be cool. The bludgeoning and piercing and slashing all depend on what you're fighting. A good example of this: if you go up against a skeleton, piercing's not going to do much to it. You can try to throw a spear at it, crossbow, bolt at it. It's going to kind of go right through it or bounce off the bones and not really do anything to it. So piercing's not really all that effective against like skeletons. You'd want slashing and bludgeoning. More so bludgeoning. Be able to crush those bones. So your type matters, but at the same time it doesn't matter, because it depends on your game master and if they even include type. I know when I run games, I tend to not include type because it's just another thing I have to keep track of when there is so many things to keep track of when running a game. So I tend to go, type, I don't care. Maybe I'll run a game one day that has it. It's completely up to the game master. But for the sake of you learning, we're going to add the slashing to the type. So now he has his longsword. So that wraps up the equipment with weapons and learning about coins. And remember, coins, they're increments of 10. 10 copper, 1 silver, 10 silver, 1 gold, 10 gold, 1 platinum. And you have the 2 different ways to have your starting equipment, with either starting with the starting packages or using that gold and the randomly rolled gold or the average of it, depending on your game master's choices, to buy the equipment a la carte, leading into the weapons, where you have all different types of weapons, where Logan is proficient with martial and melee weapons, giving him a large range of weapons to choose from, along with going into details of what every part of the weapons themselves are, with the base attack bonus, the damage, the critical strike, all that kind of components of it. I hope this was very helpful and informative. Please like, share, and subscribe. Greatly helps me. I greatly appreciate it. And I hope it was fun. Thank you for watching again. I'm Chaotic Shmoo, and I will see you next time.